Welcome to another episode of the Straight Up Chicago Investor Podcast. I'm Tom Shellcross, licensed agent with Second City Real Estate. With me, as always, is Mark Ainley, owner and founder of GC Realty. Mark, we got events coming on the schedule. What do we got cooking here?
June 23rd. I'm super excited about this. By the time this airs, we'll only be about a week or two away, I think. So if you haven't gotten your tickets and if there's tickets left, make sure you sign up for it. If you sold out, let us know. Maybe there's something we do, but I am expecting it to be sold out pretty quick here.
Yeah, so June 23rd, Avondale Bowl, the networking event of the summer. No?
Oh, man.
Century. Millennium? Dare we say?
It's going to be a good time. I'm super excited. I love, I had so much fun at our 100th episode bash. And I think we'll have a lot of the same crowd there. Plus the people that didn't make there, I know will be signing up first year. I've been getting a lot of people waiting that missed out on the 100th episode event. So I know this is going to be a good one. And the venue, Luke's place, Luke Blahnik, he's got Avondale Bowl. Like if you haven't been there, and even if you can't go to the party, you got to make sure you check that place out. The place he did such a great job restoring that place back to some of its original kind of feel.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome. So we're pumped for that. Also, if you're looking just to network, a quick reminder, we have the different Chicago networking events that come on a monthly basis, all on our webpage. There's a ton of good ones out there, ton of great people leading them. Also leads us into the Windy City Group. They're hosting the GOB Network Multifamily Conference in Chicago. It's at the Westin and O'Hare, July 13th and 14th. So if you haven't heard about that, check it out. I believe we have it linked to our website. Also, just go to Windy City REI. But another great conference right here in Chicago. It's going to have, a couple hundred people here right in your backyard.
Yeah. One more shout out to Jonathan Clem and his group. I was fortunate enough to be a guest and did some speaking on a panel this past Saturday. His group, I believe, meets once a month on a Saturday on the Northwest side. So his information is on our website as well, too. And they got a nice little group there Saturday mornings.
Yeah. Get involved, people. We're getting to the tail end of COVID here. Get back in person.
Well, I just made some great, I was there on the panel, but you're getting involved. Just remember why you're going there. Like most of the times when you don't want to go somewhere, that's when you meet somebody that is a game changer or brings you a deal or becomes a future partner. Like I met some great people on Saturday. I guess I had a very busy week last week and I just was kind of going through the motions of going and I made some awesome connections and I rekindled some old relationships with some other people that would be great networking on. So
awesome. All right, what do we got for housing provider tip of the week?
All right, so this one is this is very important these days. So we've moved away from picking up the phone and calling people, and things are a lot of times through texting and emailing. And these texts and emails are becoming more and more casual, and they're very short. And the more casual they are, and the less you know somebody, the much higher chance you have of it being interpreted the wrong way. And think about this, self-managers, property managers, even as developers, as you're trying to negotiate deals, just kind of shooting over a quick 2 or 3 words sometimes can be taken out of context. So make sure you take that extra time to kind of, if you're saying, hey, we'll be there at 3 and for a work order, maybe you want to say, hey, we'll be there at 3 and Joe's going to be the person showing up there. Just hopefully we'll get this fixed today. Something like that, just to add some
and always
context.
give a window. Don't commit to a certain time.
Yeah, there you go. Between 12 and 3. Between 12 and 3. That's another tip in itself. But yeah, just make sure that when you're saying these text messages and you're sending these emails, make sure that you're looking at it from the vantage point of how the reader is reading it, because it doesn't matter what you intended, it's how they interpret it.
I like it. Good stuff. All right, we got a returning guest here. This is going to be a good one. So I know a lot of times when we go to these meetups that we're just talking about, what do you pay for rehab? Is there a good GC? There's a lot of questions around this, and today we're going to be picking it up with a past guest here. This time, first time solo though. Last time with his wife Nikki, but coming back to the show now, we have a licensed GC with EJC Partners, helping investors all around the Chicagoland area. He's also a managing partner with NVR Properties. Been doing that for over 5 years, and managing partner with Connect Real Estate Capital. He has scaled tremendously over the last 2 or 3 years in both the contracting business and as a real estate investor. So perfect person to have on the show to talk through this. RJ DeLeon, welcome back to the show. How are we doing, man?
Hey guys, happy to be here. I'm doing awesome today. Just another day.
You know what? And since the last time you've been on, also a new father. So congratulations. I hope Elliot's doing well.
He's doing real well.
So, all right. So, RJ, let's dive in here. We have just a ton of contracting questions that get asked all the time. Let's start with, what is one thing you have to always repeat yourself and explain to investors? Like, you go to that first meeting, and what's the one thing where it's like, all right, this is the 2-minute thing I'm always going to have to say, regardless of what type of job it is?
Sure. There's some things I say and some things I don't say, but would love to say. So I'm going to give you little behind the scenes here on the current. That's a great question. The one thing that I always have to say, people, and this is very much for my target market when you're dealing with C-class, B-class properties, is you have to understand your target market. A lot of these newbie investors, they have a standard of living that they're very used to. They have nice tastes, nice styles. So they really want the Class A asset or Class A fixtures on a, Class C asset budget. And that's just not possible. So I guess very, very much off the top of my head, it's very much so. You got to understand your audience. You got to understand it's for a rental. You got to understand that you yourself put your, they typically always have a budget. And with a lot of things they ask, it's outside the scope of work, outside the budget, and it just doesn't make sense for a rental. So that's one thing that I do like to tell a lot of people. Thing on the back end that I walk away from a lot of interactions and I say, why'd they say that? Now I don't want to do this job. People that overpromise things, I'm gonna be the biggest investor I'm trying to build relationships. Give me a good price and I'll give you business down the street. I'll give you business, when I'm a big investor. And those are red flags for a contractor. We could see right through that. And I'm guilty. I probably used to say that myself. I'm sure I've said it. While building my team, hey, I got a lot of work coming for you. The difference is I gave them a lot of work. Some of those contractors I said it to and didn't give any work, I don't work with them today. And that's for a reason.
Yeah. So we touched on budget. Let's go there, because I think, one thing that I have trouble answering, because Chris and I have such a tight relationship. We just kind of roll through things and almost, it's almost like agile for anyone who's, works in the consulting world. We're just we're very loose with it. We have an earned relationship on both sides. But when you're dealing with someone for the first time, are you typically going out there and saying, all right, what budget am I backing into? Or are you letting it saying, okay, I'll let the scope dictate the budget and get back to you? Because it's kind of two ways to end up at that end result.
Sure. That's a perfect question, actually. I always ask for the budget. With my sales background, I always ask for the budget because it makes sense to understand whether or not off the bat, are we spinning our wheels here? Do you have unrealistic expectations, or am I working with something that could be a great relationship, win-win? A lot of people have a concept around sales that when people ask for your budget, when people ask these types of questions, that it's only so that they could have an upper hand. So that I know your budget. Now I could charge you $50K for a $20K job. That's absolutely not true. For a win-win relationship, for somebody that's actually trying to build a relationship, you give me a budget, I could tell you whether or not it's feasible. And that way I don't have to go home, spend 3 days writing up an estimate, looking up insane details for a project, and then you saying, oh, it's out of budget, and then choosing the next contract over because he overpromised. And that's typically what happens.
Yeah. What would you say to someone who pushes back there, right? Or let's say maybe they don't push back, but they just don't know. Hey, we don't know, like, what's going to give us the best return on investment here. Do we just do kitchens, baths, or do we gut this? Like, talk to us about getting like that consultation role a little bit.
So those are actually perfect clients for me. And the reason I say that, if you see any of my social media posts, I'm an investor first, mentor second, mentor consultant second, and a contractor. So every time I come into a new property, meet a new person, it's about looking at it out of their lens. Is this a good investment? Can we meet their goals with the budget that they have? So I'm sorry, I sort of forgot the question there, but I like those types of clients. I think I got it back. I like those types of clients having an open conversation, because then it's more of a consulting role. And you could say, well, no, you don't have to build a bathroom in a basement that nobody's going to utilize, because that's not going to increase rent values for yourself. That's just a shiny new object for yourself. Like, you're going to use that bathroom once a year type deal. Sorry, that's top of mind because that just happened. But the consulting role is great. And people that are open to that conversation are the perfect clients, because you could learn about each other, build an SOP or a contract SOW exactly what in their vision.
How often are you providing that mentoring, and it's almost to the point where your advice makes what they brought to you a bad deal? I know I get that from the property management side of things, where it's like, man, like this is gonna be a nickel and dime you, and you're gonna have issues here, or you're not gonna get that rent. Like, talk to me about some of that experience you have.
So obviously I always try to consult. I tend to say no to the people that are very strong-willed. It took a lot of discipline for me to do that, because as I was building the business, I wanted to say yes to everybody. Yes, I could do that. Yes, we could do this. But then I started realizing that the clients that are very strong-willed, that want what they want in the budgets they want for no reason, taking none of your consulting advice to heed, those are awful clients. And I never want to get in the weeds with them. So having an open conversation, having an open relationship is key. I could think back to a couple of clients that, they were the comp in the area. So they were the highest sales price in the area. They wanted to put in an extra $150,000 into it when the current rents didn't call for that. Like, I think he was going to get like $100 per door rent increase. I said, why don't you just ask your current tenants if they'd be open to a rent increase? And then turn it over. You don't have to put in $150,000 to get $100 a door, $300 extra a month, which is, that's sort of ridiculous to me. But, and so I avoid those situations.
So you're selling yourself out of the deal sometimes. I know I do that all the time.
Yes.
I'll get clients like, hey, maybe you're just better off managing this yourself, because you sound like you know better than me. So you get those situations, and I think you put a lot of this is more common than a question. You get a lot of goodwill out there, I think, in life. I look at those mentoring and coaching moments, even though it might not give you business now, it ultimately comes full circle somewhere else in life. Maybe from that person referring you because you just saved them $150,000 at an upgrade they didn't need, or they're just grateful that they have other options now. So I think a lot of that, just being a business owner or a good person, pays itself forward. As far as the mentoring piece of it, are you doing any of that, like in your marketing and stuff like that? Is that how you're gearing your marketing? Because that's a huge, there's not many people that can do what you can do. When you have that investor background, same with you, Tom, on the brokerage side, if you're going to be working with buyers, or I guess me too, in the property management side, to have that real estate investment, the rehab side behind you, that you're better, you have more experience and abilities than 80% of your competition. How are you utilizing that for your
so
benefit?
Actually, I'm going to take a minute to pause here and say, Mark, you are exactly that person that you said. When we got into the real estate game, Nick and I called you for advice more than a handful of times. You're always happy to give good advice. to steer us in the right direction. So a lot of where we are today is because we did consult or reach out to people like yourself who are a lot more successful. So I want to pause the show real quick and say thank you for that, Mark.
Thanks.
So two, oddly enough, EJC Partners has grown and scaled with zero marketing. Well, I can't say zero because a lot of it is my Facebook and my social media presence, but a lot of it is also attending meetups. I host the Chicago Multifamily Club with John Kasman. You guys have been guests. I come to your meetups and events, and it's exactly that. The goodwill that you create by not screwing somebody over, by maintaining integrity in your day-to-day business comes back tenfold, because I have done almost zero marketing, again, other than my social media presence. And I just got a phone call the other day, and I haven't been on Bigger Pockets in forever. And this guy called me up and he said, "Hey, you come highly recommended. Your name gets dropped a lot on Bigger Pockets." I was like, "Really? I'm never on there." And he said, "Yeah, you're a popular guy." And the only reason I could attribute that is because the integrity and the goodwill and how I treat clients and customers.
Yep. All good stuff, RJ. So let's talk about, the investor who's going to buy, their 3-unit, their 4-unit, whatever it may be. Obviously you don't want to waste your time. You want to be engaged when this thing's under contract and you know that it's legit and there's budget and all that fun stuff. The world doesn't always work like that though, right? They might not buy the property until they know, hey, is my rehab 100 or is it 200K? I don't know. So talk about like, how do you handle that situation? Hey, I'm looking at this property. Will you come walk it with me? And you got, 80 hours of work to do in a, 60-hour week and be a father.
Yep. Yeah. That is very, very difficult. And this is an area I'm still trying to say no to. But Tom, I really put everybody that's relationship based first. So Tom, I've walked a bunch of properties for your clients. I always walk Mark's clients. Mark's given me a lot of great referrals. I walk those properties without any questions asked, only because it's referral. But when it comes to somebody that I don't have that relationship with, that calls me up, seems like they're spinning my wheels, gives the promises, "Oh, I got so much work, but this is my first property," I say, okay. I charge a consulting fee actually, because what I want your audience to understand and know is that our time is important. You only know me as a contractor, but like you said, Tom, I got a wife at home, I got a baby at home, I got my health, my lifestyle I need to maintain. I got 2 dogs I got to walk. I got a lot of other things. I got investments going on, a lot of other things other than your specific project. So if you're not being mindful of my time on the phone, I'm going to put it out there that I have to charge you a consulting fee, because if you think about it, when I come out, it's going to take me a half an hour to drive to wherever your project is. Then it's going to take me another hour and a half, depending on how well you know what your SOW is, and how much consulting I have to do, which, takes up a lot of time and energy. Then I have to come home and spend another day to whatever, however long, building out a proposal for you. So if you don't think that's worth my time, or if you don't think that's worth compensation, then again, you're probably not the right client for me. But so to reiterate, friends, family, client referrals always come first. And then if you're somebody off the street that I don't know well, that seems to be spinning their wheels, I always put it out there that I charge consulting fees. Not saying that I always do, but it depends on the interaction. And that maybe I'm bad business owner for, because that's a lot of very emotionally based on my end.
No, it's you offer a service, you offer a value, and you got to protect that. So I definitely do it. But let's flip that though. So you got a lot of people listening that they might reach out to you, but they might reach out to a dozen other type contractors in the city, and they might be trying to deal with them, but they might be too busy. A lot of people are just busy, and they might not be taken serious, right? Is there a way to approach a person such as yourself, saying, hey, listen, I need to figure out some of these things about building, about Chicago market alone when it comes to construction. I'm willing to pay you for your time. Like, how can somebody approach that from that angle?
Well, right off the bat, you said it at the end. So I have had people approach me and say, hey, I'm willing to compensate you for your time. I know you're a very busy person. I have a project. It's in the pipeline. It's not a closed contract, but I'd really love to see if you could come out and go through the inspection with me. Go on inspection day with me. Now, the thing that people have to understand is that we're all busy. I'm probably 2 weeks out when it comes to walkthroughs alone. So build that relationship, build a rapport. Don't start a relationship off bad. Dale Carnegie says, make everlasting impressions, right? So that's whether it's friends, family, business, whatever aspect of your life. You don't want me to remember, you only have one chance to make a good impression. So don't call me up and demand I come out tomorrow because that's all you have planned. It's, it's very you based. And I said it that way because if I say me, you got to think about it that way. You got to think it's not always about you. It's about building relationships, right? So start with that. Try not to be selfish in how you're talking about the project. I guess you got to be very conscious about that. And that's very difficult. So, soften words, say, I'd love it if you could come. I know schedules are tight. This is what we have scheduled. If you could, make your schedule work out, we'd appreciate that, instead of, you can only come on this day. This is only time I got it, which I've had a lot of clients, like, very demanding. It's like, I hang up the phone and I'm like, I don't know about that, but that's also taken a long time for me to be able to say no, to be able to understand and see those situations before they come. I don't know if I answered that correctly, but it's a lot deeper of a conversation than just a quick answer. It's more about emotional intelligence, understanding the what and the whys of the person on the other end of the phone, whether it's finding a contractor, getting a building, finding something off market. You got to sort of understand how the other person ticks and not make it only about yourself.
Yeah, very true. Rapport is the word that comes to my mind. And that it's no different for the realtor that at 8:00 on a Sunday, like, I got to see this property tonight or tomorrow morning, or the inspector. So I see it all the time. And it's funny because one person might ask me and it pisses me off. The other person might ask me, and it's like, yeah, no problem. I'll find a way to get someone over there. Yeah. And but the two differences is kind of that rapport and that relationship, and maybe the way they ask the question, or how they've treated me in the past, or how they've been grateful about other things that I've done. So I think a lot of that comes down to rapport.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
So let's dive in a little to that, that intro call we're talking about, when everyone's kind of feeling each other out. What are some questions, if you were on the other end, that you as an investor, what are some questions you would be asking to vet a quality contractor?
So I always ask very high level, like, workflow. Do you, like, when you commit to a contract, this is my number one. When you commit to a contract, will you have workers on site every day? Like, obviously, without knowing other circumstances, but this is also why I was able to build a reputation, because I didn't overbook or overcommit myself. And I look for that a lot in other contractors, subcontractors. So if it's a longer period, and that's what we're doing when we're doing gut rehabs, I may be on your project for 6 to 8 weeks. I need to understand if you are going to show up to the job site every single day. So a lot of the contractors out there, the fly-by-night guys, or the guys who spread themselves too thin, they'll take on multiple contracts and they won't be able to have workers on site every day. So that delays your timelines. And it also, without being very transparent about that up front, it destroys trust. So right now, I'd say is one of the only times I have a contract going where I told them, hey, I want to get your property done. They're repeat clients. I've done 4 buildings for them already. And I said, I really want to get your contract done. They said, we really want you to do the contract. And I said, okay, if you could be flexible on your timelines, I could start and I could piecemeal it, but you're not going to get the same service from me. I will not be on the job site every single day. I could piecemeal it together and make sure your job gets done by X timelines. I think we're mid-June is our timelines. So going back to your question, that's always one. You always want to see past projects, referrals. Referrals are your go-to, but at the same time, referrals can end up poorly. So always go with your referrals first. Timelines, ask them about the scope of work. What's your process? How do I get billed? How am I invoiced? When do you start? High level, demo, drywall, bathrooms, etc. And just being able to see if they can speak the lingo, I guess you could say. There's a lot of subcontractors I've tried to use, and I talk to them about their processes, and they can't even, tell me their process. And I'm like, okay, thanks. And I don't call them back.
When we were cranking out 5-6 units a month on the rehab side of things, I fell victim to a contractor that, we went through some of these questions that we're asking, talk about here today. And ultimately I found out, I don't remember how I found this out, but I found out all the pictures and the projects that he showed us he did were not his. He ended up pulling them off somewhere else. Like, how's a way when it comes to, hey, listen, this guy, just a side note here, I walked into this unit. It was a attached one, like you have, Tom, there on 97th, or you had there. And part of the project was he was resanding the floor. And I walk in and the job was a mess. And he was resanding with a hand sander. And there was probably about a quarter of an inch of sawdust like throughout the whole unit with materials and everything around. I'm like, oh my gosh. But how do you avoid kind of how easy it is to just pass your projects on from somebody else's?
Sure. So I would vet by physically showing up to the job sites. That's also why referrals are best, right? You might not always see their job sites, but then you could check out their social media presence. Everybody always asks me if I have a website. Actually, this is a rabbit hole. Everybody asks me if I have a website. A website doesn't mean anything to me. People ask me because they want to know I'm a legitimate company. Well, I could do something on, Squarespace or whatever and put it up in a day. What really matters to me, where I'm very active, is social media. Are they in it day in, day out? Can you go to their social media page and see what they're doing on a daily basis? Today, in fact, I think I posted maybe 2 or 3 videos already. I'm having concrete poured. I'm having countertops put in. I had Garnett, my number 2, run down 2 Southside projects. I have guys sending me pictures of kitchens, and I post all that. So that social media presence is huge. But meeting contractors on site. So a lot of my subcontractors, actually not a lot, but subcontractors I find coming in and out of houses. And I say, oh, are you working on that house? And they say, Yeah. Like my neighbor next door, I got a contact because they were refinishing the apartments. And I said, you working on that? And he said, yeah. I said, I'd love to come take a look. Showed me the units. I see him in and out of the project every single day. I know it's him doing the work. I know him and his guys. I see their faces. So that's huge. Another big one is meeting contractors at Home Depot at 6 a.m. 6 a.m. Not the 10 a.m. guys. The 10 a.m. guys, sometimes you could find the boss, but the 10 a.m. guys are the unorganized guys that aren't ready for the day. But you could find me at Home Depot at all hours of the day. I'm trying to get rid of that, but yeah. So it's really just being a physical presence at their job sites, and again, back checking that with their process, with the questions that you ask. You don't even have to know the process. You just say, what's your process? Okay. And then, okay, then what happens? Okay, then what happens? And like, think about it logically. And we're like, well, you can't put up kitchen cabinets before you demo that. You know what I mean? So that's very obscene example, but
one other red flag from that story I told a minute ago is people solicit you to do work for you, and they're not working. That's probably at the time, it's like, oh, we can use all we can. It was still a different market than it is today, but
yeah,
if people are soliciting you to work, especially in today's market, they're probably not that good, or they're or they're trying to rip you off. So just let that be a landlord tip.
that's a good one, and I chuckled over that because I have clients that say, oh, I needed the estimate yesterday. I'm like, well, I toured yesterday. And they're like, well, a guy toured yesterday and he said he could start Monday. And I'm like, okay.
God bless.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are typically the callbacks. I should have been more patient, vetted them out better.
It's crazy. It's such a like, you want someone that has enough room to get your job done, but if they can get your job done too fast, it's like, whoa, what's going on here? Why don't you have more work than that?
Yep.
RJ, let's say you're on the investor side here. Someone great, come to agreement. Project's gonna be X. What would you suggest to the investor as far as just keeping an eye and pulse of the project? Right, as a contractor, you don't want someone there every day looking over your shoulder. But, people can get burned if they're not tuned into what is going on there. So putting like your investor hat on, what would you recommend to someone going through their first rehab? Just what level of involvement they should have as far as either being on site, calls, or whatever checkpoints you think are necessary?
Sure. The number one thing is just make sure the contractor is living up to expectations. And when I say that, I'm thinking about very specifically, they're showing up at the job site every day. What are the timelines? What are the expected timelines? What's the schedule they gave me? And are they staying true to that schedule? Don't be the guy that pulls out a chair and sits and watches and critiques every single thing. I've had that happen where somebody's done everything short of making popcorn and watching us, but they ask, what's going on with that? What's going on with that? What's going on with this? And it's like, those are all touch-up items. We got to finish everything else first. But anyway, I digress. So that's where the relationship with your contractor really comes key, right? Checking in job site every day if it's very easily accessible. If it's not, every couple of days, at least get pictures from your contractor. That's what people love about me. And I found that inadvertently. They say, you're very communicative. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, you send me a picture every week. I'm like, yeah, like once a week. Like, sure, I show you the process, but I mean, sometimes I even do it more often than that. But significant stages in the project, maybe you could ask your contractor if he says, oh, we finished countertops today. You could say, oh, can you take a picture for me? And take a picture, send it to you. Or we're going to start bathrooms tomorrow, should be done by the end of the week. Great. Can you send me some progress pics? Some of the biggest items that you really have to watch out for when you're new is be there not so much during the demo process, but when everything's down, when all the walls are down, make sure your contractors aren't covering up things and hiding things, right? Because A, they don't know how, or B, they mess something up and they're trying to hide it before they leave. That's something that actually happened, Mark, with a client that you recommended. You know, we gutted the bathrooms, and it's an old 100-year-old brick building. And we took down the walls. The bricks were falling apart. They were actually loose, even on the sill. They were like coming off. And you know, as a consultant, I said, well, I gotta let the client know. You know, the client may be upset because he has timelines, but I got to let him know, because I'm not going to cover this up without consulting him, letting him know. Let him make the choice. That's sort of a mantra in our company. Let the client make the choice. We're having a problem with moisture and covering it up. Let the client make the choice. Don't just cover it up. Say, this is what's happening. These are some fixes. I can or I do not have the capabilities. It's going to delay your timelines, but please make the choice. So I think that was a little bit of a rabbit hole. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's kind of was all around the same question. So talk to me about draw schedules. I think the investor wants to pay as little as possible as they can along the way, and the contractor needs enough to survive and would like it more frequently. Sure. What's like a win-win that can be proposed when negotiating terms of a contract?
So that's really fluid depending on the job, but that could also raise red flags. So myself, I actually have a project going on right now. We're 2 weeks in. Shame on me, I haven't asked for the first draw. They paid for their cabinets up front, but we're already done with demo. We're painting the walls. We've drywalled, demoed everything. And I'm like, shoot, I have to invoice them. So where I mean it could be a red flag are those people that are very adamant that they need money. They need money. Think about it in these terms. Is what you're doing, does it need money? How do you pay your guys? Are you paying your guys weekly? Because nobody's paying their guys daily. If they're paying their guys daily, I don't know. I would say run away, but I don't know. Right. If they're paying their guys daily, that's some fly by night stuff. But how are you paying your guys? Okay, if it's demo, that doesn't really take any cost. You need what, $200 for some garbage bags? Everything else should already be there. So when it comes to demo and stuff, me personally, to lend credibility, I actually say I don't need money from you for this first portion. Obviously, I do invoice the first week, but I say I don't need money because all we're doing is demo, and that's labor intensive, and that takes no money. Right. So maybe shame on me, but I feel like I've been very blessed with a lot of the clients that I have building that relationship. Now, I'm not going to run away and steal your deposit. I have, and to go down rabbit hole, probably talking too much. I had a guy that I've been following a lot. I emulated him. I like him. I tried to get him on one of my projects, and he's like, you need to give me money. Day one, like before I even step on the project. I'm like, dude, you do way bigger projects than me. How do you not already have a bankroll? Obviously, I'll pay you because I understand that, but that was a red flag to me. I'm not working with them. Not because of that, but because for a myriad of other things.
Yeah, I think it's very true as far as what the scope of the work requires. So we always kind of act as our own GC with subs, but we always carry the materials. So, it really didn't require too much money up front because you're not going to prepay your guys. And that was always a red flag for us that
Right.
that they're having cash flow issues. Now, on the flip side of that, we tried to pay them a little more often, a little more, maybe on a $40,000 rehab, we might pay them 7 or 8 times smaller amounts, just because I always still get that it motivated them to kind of keep moving at these certain points. So,
Yep.
good stuff.
Yeah, let's kind of counterpoint this as well. Like, let's say you hire someone to do your kitchen for you, right? And you're not going to touch the materials. You're busy with your 9 to 5. You're making them buy the cabinets. You're making them buy the stone. You're making them buy all the appliances, the fixtures. You should be paying up front, right? Like that person's not trying to rip you off. Like that is a ton of money for someone who's living paycheck to paycheck to just go out there and be like, yeah, I'm going to front this couple thousand. And then, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know. I feel like investors are always like, oh, I'm not giving you a dime. And it's like, well, hold on a second. Like it is, it goes along the same lines. We've talked about this several times on the podcast, like your draw process, like, oh yeah, cool. That's going to cover 90% of my rehab.
Right.
Well, no, you still need the money to buy all this stuff and you will get reimbursed, but you still got to be able to float that for, whatever period of time between your draws.
Yep, exactly. And that's also why I don't like 203K loans, to be very honest. But you're right. It depends on the project. And that's why I said it's very project dependent. That's why for my draw schedules, it's typically at a significant event. So I made that first example with the red flag. If it's just demo, like somebody that's being very forceful about money, whatever amount, some people want half up front, and it's like, okay, it's a $50,000 project and you're just doing demo day one, you could run away. But on the back end, with the point you're making, I make my draw schedules at significant events. So after demo, then come materials for drywall, trigger event, draw event. And those materials will expand into the bathrooms because demo includes all that. So then after bathrooms are complete, another draw event, because then you're getting countertops, vanities, fixtures, and you got to float that. So typically on a large project, I'm about 4 draws. I do a third up front or first week of project, a third after a significant event, such as starting bathrooms, ordering cabinets, ordering vanities, supplies, and then a third upon reasonable completion with a 10% holdback only of the outstanding balance. Because, that's gotten me in trouble before too. I've only had to put out 1 mechanics lien, thank God. But that goes into relationships with contractors, I guess, when you get in tricky situation.
All right, so let's go down that real fast. Mechanics lien. What is that, and how does someone end up having to deal with a mechanic lien, or how does an investor end up having to deal with that type of issue?
Awesome question. I'm not going to give the book definition, and I may be wrong on this, so it's not the dictionary explanation. But a mechanics lien is a tool that contractors can use to put a lien on your property for work that's been completed but has not been paid for, or you have not received compensation. So I hope that's clear. Was that clear?
Yeah, it's the contractor's recourse if you decide to stiff them, right?
Yes.
And then if you ever go to refinance your property or sell your property, it's a lien sitting on there that needs to be dealt with one way or another.
Yeah, you got to resolve the lien before the sale occurs.
And I've seen, it's happened to me actually before, where I've paid my contractor and he didn't pay his subs.
Yeah.
And the subs turn around and lien the property. So keep that in mind, everybody. The subs that whoever you hired can turn around and lien your property. That's usually where I've seen people get in trouble with.
Yep. So anybody that's done a draw process or has done a construction loan, the banks always ask for lien waivers, not just from your general contractor, but also your general contractors, subcontractors. So that's something that you may encounter in the future.
Yep. Good stuff. RJ, what do we, communication's big, right? A lot of times things get lost in translation. I know even with like Chris and I, we'll walk a property and be like, yeah, I think it's this, it's gonna be 200K. The property comes back to us 6 months later and we're scrolling through text messages, be like, what do we think that was? What's going on? Like, it's just, it's a terrible way to do. We've gotten better. I put everything in notes for each property now, but talk about like whether you're the investor or the contractor, things are going to change, right? Mm-hmm. Decisions are going to be made. Scope's going to creep. Things are going to happen. How do you document that all in a formal way?
I'm getting better at it. So, that's one thing I just, need to get better with my documentation process. And that actually brings up another red flag that you could look out for that I hear this from a lot of larger contractors is a contractor without a schedule is a red flag. So whether it's written down or not, this is what I was talking about. You have to be able to ask your contractor what the schedule is going to be so that your contractor's got to be able to reiterate that to you, because if they're lost in the dark, they're going to be lost in the dark during your project and you don't want them on the project. So did I answer that okay?
Yeah, no, it's all good. I know we run into it all the time. Even when we have it documented going back 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, it's like, oh man, got to go find this.
Yep.
So, and for folks listening, I know we've stayed in the GC lane here with RJ. But as he's mentioned, he's also a mentor. He's also an investor himself. A lot of different ways he could add value to you. You can check out our earlier episode he had with both him and Nikki on there. But I don't want to pigeonhole you into just this GC role, but we did have you on for your expertise to cover this topic.
Thank you. Yeah, we have an alternative investment right now. Very interesting. We're raising capital for. So you guys caught me at a very transformational moment in my life where I'm trying to scale the GC business. So we're hiring, by the way. I think this would be a great platform. If you guys are looking for contracting experience, you're an investor, you're very passionate about that stuff, you don't need much experience. We want to help train you into the knowledge that we have. So we are hiring for a project manager type role.
All right. You have to provide us the link that we can put in the show notes as well, too. Yep. So when people hear that, you can see the job description.
Yep. Absolutely.
Ready to wrap?
I'm ready to wrap, man.
Let's wrap.
Sir.
All right. Our guest has an advantage because he's been through his questions already, but we could ask him in a different context.
I forgot him.
All right, good. All right.
Shoot.
That's pre-kid.
Yeah.
That's so funny. All right, RJ, what's your competitive advantage as far as being as EJC goes? How have you been able to do this while other contractors are not as good as you?
So blanket answer, integrity, the goodwill you create, just like you said, Mark, just not putting too much on my plate and trying to always live up to customer expectations. So it's not anything mind-blowing, earth-shattering. It's really the relationships you build. For me, I'm a very emotional-based guy. It's always about the relationships you build.
Good stuff. What is one piece of advice you would tell someone that is yet to buy their first property here in Chicago?
I would say it's never too early to start building your team. Build your team early. Don't overpromise. Like I keep saying, don't overpromise. So don't say, I got 1 million projects coming down the pipeline. Just say, be very open and honest. I, love to sit you down, have coffee. I don't want to waste your time. When the time's right, I'd love to loop you in. I'm just trying to build my contacts right now, so I'm not in the dark when I pull the trigger.
Yeah, it's the same stuff Noah talked about with Aaron on the Tuesday tip we just had, right? How can you get in with these big multifamily investors? It's being upfront and honest with them. You don't need to put on a facade.
We can smell your bullshit. Can I say that?
Well, same thing with renters. If I sign it to your lease, we give me a discount. It's like, well, maybe if you're good the first year, then I won't raise your rent the second year. So, but let's get past that first. All right, cool. What do you do for fun now that you're a dad?
You shouldn't have put in that second part because this answer is very selfish. I love fishing. I've spent a lot of time or like maintenance dollars on my boat. I'm taking down to Kentucky for Memorial Day. I'm actually taking as many of my crews and my guys as I can. I'm taking as many of them as I can camping with me. So we're all going down to Kentucky. My main finishing crew, my main electrician, my main HVAC guy. Hopefully my plumber can make it. They're all coming camping with me. So along with my main lender, my lender is coming. My number 2 is supposed to be there too, but he can't make it anymore. So
good stuff. All right, RJ, what is a good book, podcast, or self-development activity that you would recommend to our listeners?
Sure. So perfect question. Very top of mind for me right now. Time blocking. Because it's all good and well for you to say what you want for the future. But if you don't time block to start building your future, you're never going to get there. So you got to think of it in the regards of, I want to spend more time with my family, but you don't do the appropriate actions to get there. You're never going to have that. So books that can go along with that. I'm reading Traction again for the third time. Because the EOS system, I know, Mark, you're on it. You mentioned it at John's meetup. John's on it as well. I just really need to hone that down. So the problem is getting everybody else on board as well, but I need to do it for myself and my company.
That's awesome. Besides yourself, name one person in your local network that you would highly recommend to other investors as a quality resource.
Is it cheating if I say you guys?
Yeah, a little bit. We like it. We won't edit it.
Oh, man. So let me see here. Who would I recommend? I mean, there's your typical people, Bree Schmidt, Jason Wagner. Jason Wagner and I have built an awesome relationship. Bree Schmidt. Depends what lane you really want to go down. Everybody asks me for contractors, and I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't know any contractors that I would recommend in the city of Chicago. Everybody else is suburbs. Nobody wants to touch it out here. So John Clem's doing big projects now. So John Clem, Quality Builders, amazing contact to have.
Also a previous guest, and I know I've referenced your episode with Nikki. It's episode 43 for our listeners who've joined us later in the game. Go back and listen to it. It's a great one.
Awesome.
So RJ, thank you so much. You provide a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
So I always say this and I reiterate it. Bring great conversation to me. That's all you need. Everybody wants to understand how they could build value. Well, I may not understand what value I need. So just bring great conversation to me. Don't come up to me, ask me the same questions. Don't overpromise, underdeliver. If you say you want to do something or you're going to do something, actions speak louder than words. So if you want to partner with me, then call me up. Keep calling me. Stay on me. Tell me what you've done new. Because a lot of people say that to me. And I say, hey, call me anytime you want. Call me. Somebody will ask for my business card. I say, text me immediately. Nobody, for some reason, almost 99% of people never do that. I don't know.
Oh, good stuff. Mark, are we ready? We got our final question. Do we have a listener about to win a gift card here?
We do. And this listener is a little different. He went to go purchase something on the site and it was sold out and he didn't get his refund yet. So I drew his name automatically out of the hat and he'll be the person that will win a $100 gift card brought to you by Renovo Financial today. So
All right. Well, this nameless person. It doesn't. You didn't give us a name.
Mario Morales. Mario Morales. I'm not sure where Mario's from, but Mario Morales, if you're listening, you're up.
All right. So we talked about trips to Home Depot. So this is a good relevant question for you.
Sure.
And I'll give you multiple choice. I'll give you guys both a chance at it. How many Home Depots are there in Chicago? And that is within the city limits. So not Niles, not Evanston, within the city limits of Chicago. How many Home Depots are there? And I'm a nice guy and I want our guy Mario to win it. So I'll give you multiple choice. Is it A6, B10, C14, or D17?
I know the answer. Can I answer?
Well, let Mark get a shot here.
I would not even have said that. I would go 6, A6.
RJ.
My answer as well.
It's 10, boys.
No way. What?
That's what the internet says.
Get out of here.
I thought for sure. No.
Maybe I missed Brickyard. I don't know.
Yeah, Brickyard, North Avenue, Elston, Lincoln Park.
Is Normandy in
the one
city?
by the Portillo's on Addison, like Kimball, Kedzie and Addison.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Armitage, 1919 North Cicero. I thought that was in Cicero.
We got South Loop, 87th.
South Loop, yeah. I can go look this up. 47th and Western.
Yeah.
Probably not doing too much down there.
Mario Morales gets screwed again.
Oh man.
This guy.
Mario, we're gonna send you something definitely for being part of this, and then also getting the short end of the stick. But we'll make sure you get that Straight Up Chicago Investor merch as well too.
Awesome, Mark, take us out.
All right, RJ, thank you for coming back. Tom, thank you as always. Listeners, we mentioned it before. Check out our meetup page on Straight Up Chicago Investor, and also check out our event on June 23rd. So you can register on there. If there's tickets sold out, let us know. We'll put you on the list. If something breaks free, we could definitely, if someone cancels or someone isn't able to make it, we will let you know. So thank you again, RJ, Tom, and listeners. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks all.